Good evening. I'd like to debrief the Assure model that I used for my copyright lesson with Miss Stewart's 7th grade class. And so in the Assure model, A is for analyze learners. And Miss Stewart's 7th grade, it was a 7th grade English class. There were 27 students. Over half have learning disabilities, either 504 or special education, or are in the MTSS process. Just under 25% are emergent bilingual. Over half come from economically disadvantaged homes, and one of the 27 students has an above average reading level. There are not generally discipline issues, and this is the first time these students are learning about copyright. They have little to no background knowledge. So as far as differentiation goes, I wanted to focus on students who finished early and students who were struggling with the assignment. And so the two things that I said for students who finished early and finished early successfully, those two things were write a scenario of their own that illustrates a copyright violation, and get on their device to log into Miss Stewart's Google Classroom, watch the video Creativity, Copyright, and Fair Use from Common Sense Media. This district is a 1-to-1 district, and so they all have a laptop, and they could do that individually. Struggling students, I thought that I would probably pull a small group and work with them as a group, going over a few more examples and allowing them to work as a group. This will especially be possible since Ms. Stewart is in the room to monitor the students as well, and so she and I can tag team on that. The first S in Assure is for state standards and objectives. The 7th grade ELA TEK 7.8.D2 says the student is expected to analyze characteristics and structural elements of informational text, including features such as references or acknowledgments. And then there are two ISTE standards for educators. 2.5C, educators apply evidence-based instructional design principles to create innovative and equitable digital learning environments that support learning. And collaborator 2.4A, educators dedicate planning time to collaborate with colleagues, this would be Mrs. Stewart, to create authentic learning experiences that leverage technology. And then the objective was, given 10 scenarios, the student would be able to identify which scenarios are a copyright violation, what the error is using complete sentences, state how to correct the error using complete sentences, and effectively communicate thoughts and ideas using correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation. And for this, I have a rubric. And I have attached the rubric as well. The S is for the second S is to select strategies and resources. The main strategy was assigned. It was lecture. I will say it was very hard not to ask the students questions and try to get their feedback, because as a math teacher in my past life, that is really what I kind of go towards, is asking questions and having a lot more, and I think I would if this were live. I understand that. The students would do fill in the blank note taking. I needed Google Slides, and I said in this slide that I needed Novio. It ended up I used ScreenPal to record the slide, formerly known as Screencast-O-Matic, and then the teacher materials are the slide presentation, the note-taking guide, and the scenario list that the students would be graded on at the end, as well as the rubric. To utilize, the U is for utilizing resources. And so one of the things that I needed to do, I needed to preview, which for me was refamiliarize myself with copyright. And I had a hard time distinguishing between copyright and how to cite. And so I went strictly with copyright for this, and then in my mind, there would be a follow-up lesson on here's how we're going to cite and walking them through citing. The resources that I needed to prepare were to create the materials, the slides, the handouts, and the rubric. And to prepare the environment, I needed to make sure the presentation would work in Mrs. Stewart's classroom. And I also needed to make sure that the lights were dimmed so that they could see the slides, but still light enough for them to write and to fill out the fill in the blank handout. The next part of utilizing resources was to prepare the learners. I would greet the students by name as they enter the classroom, and then ensure they all have something with which to write, and pass out the first handout. And that's when the slides would actually begin. And then I would present the lecture, pass out the second handout, and monitor the students as they complete the second handout. Those that complete it successfully, with a precursory glance, I would give one of the two extra ideas, and those that needed a little bit of help, I would sit down and go over, because ultimately I do want this to be successful for them. The R stands for require learner participation. And so I would do student practice activities, and the students would work individually to decide if each of 10 scenarios is a violation of copyright. Then they state reasons why it's a violation and how to fix it. As the students finish, in order to give them feedback as they finish, I would give a cursory check to their work and then ensure that the students were successful. I would thank them for their hard work, and then I would communicate with Mrs. Stewart which students had succeeded well and which students had some trials. The E in Assure is for evaluate and revise. And so for evaluate, I would focus on self-reflection and reflect on the struggles that the struggling learners had. Did they need more practice, or did I just not explain it well? What could I have done differently to help them understand things the first time? And then I would like to have a rubric ready for classroom lessons, so that anytime I go into a classroom, I ask the teacher that I'm cooperating with to fill out the rubric as I cover the material. Things like pacing, and did I speak over the students' heads, or did I speak, was I appropriate for the grade level, things like that. And so I'd like to have that for Ms. Stewart to work, to listen to, so that she can help me to be a better library teacher. And then revise, after looking over my self-reflection notes and Ms. Stewart's rubric, compare to see if she and I saw the same things, and think about possibly have a conversation with her, maybe take her a cup of coffee on her next conference and visit with her on what I needed to do, what I could do better. And then finally revise the lesson within 48 hours while it's fresh on my mind, so that the next time I'm called on to do a presentation on copyright, I'm ready for it, and make sure that what I presented to the class was what Miss Stewart was looking for. That would also be another thing that I needed to look over. These slides were created, the template was created by SlidesGo, and so that's my presentation. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great evening.